ReZero's biggest reveal has just happened, and that is Aldebaran's true identity, and that has just been revealed today. As most of you know, we're currently in Arc 9, and Aldebaran is essentially the main character and the villain of the arc, and many people are wondering who Aldebaran is. Now, most people speculate that Aldebaran is indeed Subaru because he has the same height, same eye color, same hair color, so on and so forth. However, we don't know that until today. Now, I want to explain exactly what's happening because most of you watching this have seen the web novel and you believe the web novel is currently on hiatus, so where have we got this new information? For those that don't know, when the light novel releases, we usually get new information in the form of a prologue. For example, with the previous volume, which you can see on screen, we had a prologue which showcases Aldebaran and Echidna interacting in, of course, the witch's tea party, and we see what they're sort of talking about. And for example, one exchange is, for example, that Natsuki Subaru, that name resonates within Aldebaran's soul and sort of distorts him, and he doesn't like Subaru. We also see other similarities in this prologue. For example, when Aldebaran is in the looping corridor, similar to Subaru, he guesses the correct door on the first try, which of course makes Echidna get a bit interested. So again, this is another similarity between Aldebaran and Subaru, which of course makes people believe that Aldebaran of course is Subaru, but most people would disagree because Tappei's an amazing writer, and it can't be that easy, it must be a red herring. After all, Aldebaran calls Beatrice Biko, and there's many more coincidences. So what is the answer? Well, today we have received the newest volume, and like the previous volume, there is a new prologue. And this prologue once again features Aldebaran and of course Echidna. So this is going to be a summary of that prologue, so do pay attention, this is quite interesting. The summary is brought to us by Ice from Witchcult Translation, so thank you to Ice. The prologue begins with Echidna telling someone that she's as much of a failure as the person she's speaking to is. The person speaking to Echidna is confirmed to be Aldebaran, and in the illustration he looks exactly like Subaru, including the tracksuit, and you can see the illustration on screen now. So you can see, in fact, that Aldebaran is indeed Subaru. Aldebaran and Echidna are located in Echidna's dream world. The dark sky is covered in stars. Aldebaran notes this as being weird, since the meadow they're in is meant to be fixed to daytime. Aldebaran had found Echidna sleeping, which was again something unusual since he'd never seen her sleeping before. Though it vexes Aldebaran to say it, he thinks that she looks beautiful, and again we can see this in the illustration that Echidna is sleeping. He also considers finding a paintbrush somewhere and doodling something on her face whilst she's sleeping. However, something catches Aldebaran's attention before he decides to go do something like that: the faint glimmer of tears pooling in her eyes. Aldebaran tries to wake her up, saying "Sensei." She finally wakes up, muttering with a tinge of regret, "So, I was dreaming." Aldebaran tries to inquire about what dream she was having, but is met with silence. That is then followed up by the line at the start of the prologue, where she tells Aldebaran that she's just as much of a failure as him. Echidna changes the subject, going more or less back to her usual self, and tries to brush off when Aldebaran says that it was weird for her to act like that. Aldebaran then sneaks a look at Echidna's face as they talk, to make sure that there's no more hints of tears, which currently there aren't any more tears in her eyes. Even so, Aldebaran knows in his heart that those words Echidna had said were not a joke, but should be her real thoughts. He wonders whom it had been that deemed Echidna to be a failure. However, he decides not to ask her that question, missing his chance, maybe forever. Aldebaran also wonders if he would even want to know the answer. The scene ends with the words, "Even if the sky of stars is fake, this quite the wonderful view, no?" And with that, the prologue ends, and then volume 41 starts. So we do in fact have the confirmation that Aldebaran is Subaru, and I did make a video on this all the way back in the day, years ago, so I was indeed right once again. So, who called Echidna a failure? In my opinion, I believe it was actually Echidna herself, because we know that there are two Echidnas. We know there's the Echidna in the coffin, and there's the Echidna in the dream world. And Tappei has confirmed that these are two different people, and even Roswell confirmed that the Echidna in the tomb is different to the Echidna in the dream world, which is what Emilia was talking about, saying that the Echidna in the tomb looks different to the one in the dream world. So I'm assuming Echidna in the dream world is some sort of copy of the real Echidna. And of course this leads to the idea that Aldebaran must be a copy of Subaru. Hence why Aldebaran looks like Subaru, because we learned before that if your soul is, say if Subaru's soul is in Aldebaran, then Aldebaran's body will change to match Subaru's soul. And that was the whole point of Arc 8 when Subaru was a kid. His soul wanted to go back to his original shape. So if Subaru's soul was inside of Aldebaran's body, then of course Aldebaran's body would be shaped like Subaru. Now of course the question would be, why does Aldebaran have Subaru's soul inside of him? That's probably because he's a replica of Subaru, kind of like the Ryuzu Shima and the Ryuzu Meiya copies, similar in the Sanctuary, and because of course Echidna is involved with the Sanctuary and Echidna is involved with Aldebaran, it's not far-fetched to think that Subaru underwent something similar, and of course this will lead back to the idea of Flugel. Based on this, we know that Subaru is the original copy, considering the fact that Satella follows Subaru and not Aldebaran, which is the reason why when Aldebaran is fighting Reinhard and Reinhard said that they're teaming up together, Aldebaran says that Satella would not even look at him, because Satella of course knows that Subaru is the real copy and Aldebaran is simply a fake. This also explains Aldebaran's authority, because if he's made from Subaru's soul, and we know that witch factors are attached to the soul, that means when Aldebaran is created, he has a sort of like weaker witch factor, because that envy witch factor will be attached to that duplicate soul. So that also explains finally why Aldebaran cannot be his own person when Subaru is around, because Aldebaran is simply a imitation. He's a fake copy. He's not the original. So by getting rid of Subaru, he will become his own person, because the original is gone and he will only remain.